The Mega Meeple is brought to you by our supporters over at Pod Pledge. Welcome to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. This is episode 34, and sadly Al is not with me this week. He's got the crud that's been going around, but I did pull in a few friends from a Savage Worlds campaign that I'm playing in, and we're going to do sort of like a round table panel discussion of Savage Worlds and our campaign. I think you'll enjoy that. Now, our guest this episode is Bob and Ryan Craig from Onedaywestgames. They're going to be talking about their Kickstarter starting on January 15th called Monster Highway. Now, this is the very first episode that, if you've listened in the past, or usually when I record a guest, it's via telephone. Well, this is the first time we're attempting it via Skype. So I think you'll find the audio quality vastly improved, but it still has room to grow and get better. I think you'll find that I did what I can with the audio, but I mean, Bob and Ryan's audio is clear, but mine has a background noise with, I guess, the heater going on. So I did what I can with it, but so I guess anytime I do interviews, I like to time it in such a way that I could have the heater or air conditioner turned off. So, but yeah, I guess not much we can do about it. I could control that, but I guess we'll just have to deal with the meows of my cat in the background. There's nothing I could do about that. But hey, you know, cat videos are a thing on the internet, so I'll have a cat providing some back-end vocals on the podcast. So there you go. So, without any further ado, let's go to our round table panel of my friends discussing Savage Worlds. All right, well, this is an interesting episode. Unfortunately, my co-host Al was not able to be with us today, so I drug in three of my friends here to share the burden. But basically, so I brought in our Savage Worlds group playing game. So we're going to talk about our current campaign in Savage Worlds and some of the highlights on the campaign. So why don't we just run across the table and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Matt, and I am the game master. I'm in charge of this particular wing of the asylum.
I'm Courtney. I'm Matt's girlfriend, and I've been in 2 of his campaigns. So far, this is my second one. The first one was Deadlands.
And I'm John Lewis, and I'm in charge of making sure Courtney doesn't do stupid stuff during our campaign.
Well, you're not doing a very good job.
I'm just messing with you.
And I'm sure if you've been a regular listener to the podcast, you haven't heard from these people, but you certainly heard about these people. So, in fact, my second interview with Jamie Stegmaier, where I talk about the guy who kind of found that broken aspect of the game with the Roots Fiat and Industrial. It was John here I was talking about. So.
And you gave me the setup, to be fair.
He does this with every game.
And I'm also Tom's roommate.
Yeah.
So you've heard many oblique references to the roommate.
I'm the other roommate.
Yeah, she may as well be on the leads because she's here, but 4 out of the 7 days a week. So.
And if you listen very carefully right now, you can hear Jack's tag hitting the bowl. He's our cat.
Yeah, who tried to steal the spotlight when I was trying to film a trailer video. I posted this on Facebook. I'm getting a real appreciation of these creators that make videos, and they're always on. They're always happy to be here and talking to people and making the video, and that's all editing, people. That's all in editing.
You find the one good take.
That's it. So yeah, I was just gonna talk about our Savage World campaign, and I kind of came on the tail end of things because McKenna was
Heading out to DePaul.
McKenna and Charles both left for college.
Yeah, so I came in and sort of took over McKenna's part as the medic. So I'm kind of not too readily involved in the campaign, but I'm just kind of I'm there after all the gunfire and stuff is over to heal people.
And the other thing was the timing worked out really well because that was when you and I were getting ready to move in together.
Right.
And get this place.
Right.
And so it made perfect sense to bring you on board at that time.
And you have the added benefit of not having an addiction problem like our last medic did.
Yeah, you don't use all the medical supplies like McKenna's character did.
Oh.
For recreational purposes.
Oh, okay. Was that her quirk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of her hindrances. So to give it a little background, because I'm not sure not everyone knows about Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds is a role-playing system. It's very modular. It's a lot like GURPS in the sense that it's used for a bunch of different settings, and it's very adaptable. There's all sorts of different license settings for horror, for sci-fi, for fantasy. There's also it's very easy to make fan-made settings. So there are Savage settings for pretty much everything, any popular IP you can think of. So Firefly, Battlestar Galactica, to really weird stuff. There's actually several versions, I believe, of Savage My Little Pony. So to say that the community can kind of take it and run with it and make with it whatever they like is one of the nice things about it.
It's a very diversified sort of setting.
And the nice thing about it is, unlike something like GURPS or certain editions of D&D, it is very easy to learn and teach. So, and that would be Jack clawing at a chair. And so their whole motto is fast, furious, and fun. So it's very, very simple to learn and teach. And, have these big battles with dozens of people in them and still have the, dozens of characters, not all player controlled, and have it just still keep going like this. And so our particular setting is Weird War 1. There's this whole series of settings within Savage Worlds called the Weird Wars. And they take place World War II, Vietnam. There's one all the way set back in Rome, and this one is set during World War I. And so my original concept was we would kind of hop about through different eras and different battlefields within the war and have kind of this core group of characters and then slowly bring in more and more characters from different nations. So we start as this British group affiliated with the British Secret Service, and they're tasked to go out and kind of deal with supernatural elements. And at the start of it, their original mission is to go into Belgium, which at the time was being invaded by Germany. This is at the very start of the war, and to kind of help the Belgian resistance in order to hold back, slow down the Germans. And so that's kind of the concept of it. And from there, we've gone on to the Italian Alps. We just finished up the Battle of the Somme. And pretty soon we're going to start with our first sort of French campaign in Verdun.
As Matt was saying earlier, though, it is very easy to pick up on the Savage Worlds. And this group was the first group that I've ever played Savage Worlds with before. And just within the first session or two, it's very easy to get into. You can get acclimated very quickly to it. There's not a lot of jargon in there that you have to get used to.
Yeah. In fact, Savage Worlds was my introduction to the whole gaming circles. Is in fact the family I was staying with at the time, a mutual friend of ours, Tuna. His name is Richard, but we call him Tuna. Don't ask. It's
He smells of fish, is what we're saying.
No, that's not necessary. But no, he was actually testing out a Savage World campaign that he was doing for a local gaming con called Mace, and he asked me if I wanted to be a part of that. So I gave him, yeah, sure, why not? And so I came in and played with the group that he had, and that pretty much did it. You know, that was my introduction to the foray of gaming, and it just went on from there, and that's when I got involved with board games and stuff like that. So Courtney, you were the only woman here in this group of travelers and adventurers. What's it like to having to banter with these Neanderthals?
Well, being that it is 2018 now, but we're not playing in 2018, it makes it a little bit interesting because I sometimes will act in ways that aren't conventional.
A good example in one of our last episodes that we had, her character's fiance was taking off for his flight run, and she didn't know he was getting ready to take off, so she runs out there in a nightgown. This is middle of early 20th century. She runs out on this airstrip.
1916.
Yeah, she runs out on this airstrip, nightgown, hollering his name. Just guys are sitting there staring at her. She just runs across this airfield. My character's chasing after her like, Courtney, put some clothes on.
Faye, my character, has a flair for the dramatic, to say the least.
Yes.
Faye is particularly different and kind of out of time in a way for her time because she's a very unconventional woman of the early 20th century, and definitely doesn't want to do things, the conventional patriarch way.
Well, that and she is an LGBT character.
Yes, she is. So that's kind of come up occasionally. There's some occasions some of the characters apparently kind of know, but they kind of have to play it a very quiet way because if this got out, this would hurt her career further. In addition to the handicap of being a woman in 1916. So that kind of makes things interesting and adds this tension. And particularly, we've had a really good time with Courtney because as much as characters in role-playing games can be wish fulfillment, I think Faye has Courtney's awkwardness full on without any attempt to make it better.
Oh, no, it is 100%.
So there was this time in Belgium where we were at this bar, and it was it was implied that the barmaids were also working girls, and one of the barmaids comes up to Faye's character, and just being a barmaid in this particular instance, because she has no reason to think that Faye would be interested in chocolate, came up to her and said, started lightly flirting with her. And
I feel like Courtney took it as she was being flirted with personally.
Yeah. And
the look on your face was absolutely priceless.
And so she kind of stutters and asks, and trying to be suave and pump her for information. How's the weather been? Do you have any tails? And it's just become this running joke with us that when Courtney tries to flirt with women, it's, have you any tails?
That whole Belgian campaign, just as a whole, was absolutely gold between that entire scene, our patchwork of a plan that we put together to steal that arcane book.
That was brilliant. that worked
that shouldn't have
ridiculously
worked.
well.
That was held together with duct tape.
But it held. It did hold.
Tell us more about how that played out. What happened?
All right, because you weren't even
time-
there for that yet, Tom.
At this time, my character Daniel had just recently found out that Faye had magical abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Faye's not the most subtle of people. She's trying to keep it under wraps, and at this point in time was actually doing that for the most part. And my character just kept rolling exceptionally well on any notice roll to tell that she was using magic. So I knew something was going down, and I eventually found out. And shortly after we get back to this place we're staying at, and was it Prussians came in? It was Prussian colonel, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Germans, but yeah, he was specifically supposed to be Prussian.
Comes in, and Faye notices a book on his possession that had to deal with magic and harvesting power from destruction. And so we immediately decided we had to get that book away from him. And instead of, just waiting for him to come out and taking it from him, running off, we came up with this elaborate plan where, because my character is kind of the face of the group, I suppose. I have the most charisma.
He has the attractive edge, which is actually
helps.
surprisingly useful.
So our whole plan was to get me up there. I'm also our squad's linguist, so I had the ability to speak German. So I was supposed to get up there, pretend I was from the commandant of the city, and talked with him, distract him for a little bit while I took the book in secret.
Mm-hmm.
We stole a bellhop outfit for Faye, so she was running the elevator.
McKenna's character, Addison, was on top of the elevator
stowed
cart.
away. We had our demo man outside. He had rigged up some explosives for my getaway if I needed them.
With Charles and Don's character, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was basically like fireworks, basically as a distraction.
And so we go in there, or I go in there. I'm in this room by myself with this colonel and a squad of hussars. And if anything goes wrong, I'm done.
We were banking on losing Daniel.
And at this point, my character was not developed super well to handle this situation if things went south. I tell him I'm from the commandant, and I, get him to try some of this liquor that I brought with me, and things are going well. I get him to go outside on the balcony with me, and I'm talking with him.
So basically, you're wooing this.
Yes,
this
I was wooing
comment.
him. And as we get out on the balcony, that was the signal to set off the distraction. If they saw me out on the balcony, and so they blow their little fireworks and everything. I'd say little fireworks. It was a decent size explosion.
They're basically little pipe bombs.
And so
Under a car, though.
It surprised all the hussars and the colonel. They all dropped to the floor. I was expecting it, so I'm like, those darn rebels, we've been dealing with them ever since we took, the city. I stormed back over the desk, set the glass down, and just as everyone's kind of down and cover, just sweep the book into my satchel and start heading out. And as I get in the elevator with Faye, we hear, the book! They took the book! And the whole next scene was just this calamity chase trying to get out of the city without these hussars running us down and killing us. And this was the first time, I believe.
Did we steal a car? Or did we have a car?
We did steal a car.
Okay, that's fine.
This was the first time that you really openly used magic.
Yeah.
Outside of your dark sight and boost abilities, one of Courtney's abilities is basically a torrent of flames that she can shoot out.
Some people carry weapons. I am the weapon. I'm ready.
And so we're running. I took our characters down this alleyway because all these hussars are riding on horses. So I'm trying to create a terrain where they can't really swarm around us. And we pull them into this alleyway. And Courtney gets a card that puts her in close range so she can use her magic, and she turns one of these squads into marshmallows.
Yeah, there were some crispy Germans after that.
And I was the only person in the squad that knew that she had magic at this point. Half our squad's like, what was that? Just surprised that Faye just flamethrowered these people.
That was fantastic. That's the first time I got to really use my powers to do anything.
And you haven't
exciting.
stopped since then.
It's really hard to keep something so cool and useful under wraps.
It's great, especially since Ivan joined the group, and his character has a hindrance called Doubting Thomas. So he doesn't believe in any sorts of magic, mystical beings, anything. He always has to try and rationalize it for his character. And Faye is just not subtle at all about the magic anymore. She's just fireball this.
I make token efforts to be subtle.
Monsters everywhere. And poor Ivan's just having to come up with some crazy explanations.
Which he does surprisingly well.
He does extremely well.
He did what's my favorite was the gas monsters, and he said, "Oh, geez, those men just in the gas masks, and oh boy."
One of my favorites was when Brad, when we were in the swamp and we came across the bodies, and it was like German scuba divers in the swamp or something like that.
Well, that was only the first
that was
group
the first time we came
zombies.
Across mystical creatures.
So Matt's thing, and we didn't realize that this was going to be a thing, but the beginning of every setting, there's just zombies.
Almost this last
variety.
one has been an exception, but you can almost always trust zombies to break in our campaign.
Well,
they're a great intro.
It's not my fault that there's so many different great flavors of undead in Savage Worlds.
I mean, they were all distinct zombie entities.
One was ice zombies, one was maggots.
I love by the time we got to the second one. The second one, the ice one, we got to the Alps, and there was an avalanche had happened, and there were some buried bodies, and when we got to these buried bodies, I was literally looking at them. I told Matt, I was like, I take my axe out and I hack one of them in the head, and Matt was like, all right, we're in action turn.
Well, they get genre savvy. What can I say?
So we're ever ready for zombies now.
Well, especially since the glom happened. That was
awful.
That was horrible.
You almost died.
I did. That was not fun. What? That was... Insert glom sound here. That was not fun.
Do the glom. You have to do the glom sound.
Okay. So the glom is basically when a bunch of people die in proximity in a particularly horrible way, their bodies fuse and they become this creature. It's actually kind of a running thing throughout Savage Worlds. There's a version of it in Deadlands, and there's a version in Weird Wars. And so it's this shambling mass of fused limbs and grotesquerie, and I decided that it makes this sound.
When it's not busy trying to eviscerate my character.
It was pretty busy trying to eviscerate.
It was pretty busy trying to eviscerate my character.
How many wounds did you have?
I think it hit me for an attack of 5 wounds at one point.
You're incapacitated at 4.
To clarify, your character can have 3 wounds at a 4th one. You are incapacitated. I had 1 wound already, and it dealt me 5 in 1 attack. For its damage, it did it was like a D10 and a D12, and you rolled up on the D12.
Yeah.
So it was monstrous amounts of damage.
So for those of you keeping track at home, he was 1.5 times dead.
Yeah.
I
was about 1.5 times incapacitated. There is a distinction between incapacitated and dead.
I was bleeding out. It was...
Yeah.
It was bad.
Close.
It was touch and go there for a minute.
Yeah, we're lucky Don Manus hit that headshot on that machine gun for us.
That's true. And then Addison, was alert enough to...
coherent.
to administer medications.
Yeah, and that's how we learned the magic of teamwork.
Air quotes.
Teamwork and or, just a plan poorly for an extended enough period of time and it'll probably work out.
I feel like it was that exact after that session that I was like, all right, combat edges, here I come.
That's great. That's great. So yeah, let's real quick just go around the table and if you could, Matt, if you could tell us what's one of the high points of why you love doing GMing campaign, and then if Courtney and John could just say what is it about RPGs that you really really take to that you really enjoy?
Well, the reason I like GMing is kind of twofold. One, I like telling stories, and so that's really resonant with me. And one nice thing is, even though I've tried doing like writing fiction in the past, it's really hard. And one thing I like about GMing is I get to offload some of that burden onto my players and just react to an extent to what they're doing and play off of them, as opposed to having it all have to spring forth from me. The other reason why I started GMing is because the sort of games I wanted to play in, I couldn't find, and so I had to make them myself.
Well, I've always really liked tabletop RPGs. My uncle used to DM when he was a lot younger, and so I heard about it from him initially, and I got really interested in it, and I ended up trying D&D 5 and 3.5, and it was just too number crunchy for my taste. And so the thing that I like a lot about Savage Worlds in particular is that it's easy enough that you can really focus on story over, you know, having to roll X number of dice and like do a bunch of math, and you know, it's a lot more story focused. Plus it has a little bit of a place in my heart, because that is how I met Matt, because I ended up playing in one of his games and now we're dating. So Deadlands in particular is always going to have sort of a special spot for me.
Oh, you're softy.
And I got to point out, Courtney's our resident historian. She takes a copious amount of notes and stuff. She has a 3-ring binder that is just full of like the history of that campaign, and who did what, when, with whom, and where, and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, there are notes about Charles' character, like
The
beheading
Yeti
a
hat.
Yeti. Yeah, like
That's a great story. We might have to tell that one.
it's good. I have it all written down.
I'd say what I really like about Savage Worlds and RPGs in general, a little bit parroting what Matt said. I mean, it's this cooperative story that kind of everyone's creating all together, and well, Matt's really in the driver's seat of that story, and what happens, we get to kind of unfold a little bit of that ourselves and kind of change little directions here and there, and you really do get invested in your character, and you really start to like them and your friends' characters and everything. You don't want to see them go. No one wants to have, you know, their character go off in a miserable way, except Charles whenever he heads off to college and is like, kill my character.
But how did Charles' character die?
He didn't die.
Oh, he didn't?
No, we just left him on a mountain. We did.
At a monastery.
Oh, that's right.
We left him on a mountain with people. He was in a monastery. He had food. He decided to stay behind and help these monks.
This was after an encounter with a Yeti, where our group did more damage to him than the Yeti did. He tried to trick this Yeti and sneak behind him. He like threw a lantern and tried to use it as a smart trick and like stealth behind this Yeti, and this Yeti noticed it and was like, I'm not that dumb. And Charles sneaks up behind it and just gets backhanded into this wall by this Yeti. So he's already hurt from that. And then like 2 or 3 people in our squad missed shots on this humongous target by rolling ones.
Yeah, wasn't it like +3
yes,
or something at least?
But we still critically failed.
Yep.
And shot Charles instead. And his character was Frank. We shot Frank, so you hear Frank yelling from the back of this cave, guys, be careful! The Yeti's got a gun!
One of the best quotes.
Yeti's got a gun.
Frank is on the run.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, Courtney, John, and
Yeah.
to come in and talk about Savage Worlds. And so that is it, and we will go on to our interview this episode, which is with Rob and Ryan Craig, and talking about their upcoming Kickstarter. So we'll go to that right now.
back to the Mega Meeple, and we're doing our first interview via Skype. Our guinea pigs this time for our first time out. But no, this will be good. We have Robert and Ryan Craig of Onedaywestgames. How you guys doing?
All right, thank you.
We're doing great, thank you, and we're happy to be your guinea pigs. So,
pleasure.
Well, all the signals are coming through clear. So you have actually we're recording this the Friday before the Monday that this Kickstarter goes live.
Correct.
So, I'm in a bit of a disadvantage. I looked at your Kickstarter trailer that you have on your Facebook page, and looked through your rules or playthrough of the game, but that's pretty much it. So the game is called Monster Highway, right?
yes,
Correct. Yep.
So now when I first saw the at least the Kickstarter trailer, the first thing I thought of was like, all right, if Cloverfield was a game, this would be it. At least when I watch a movie, I like to put myself in the position of the character, and okay, what would I do in this situation? And I think, by the looks of it, Monster Highway brings that to the table, because you have this monster rampaging through the city, and you're trying to escape and get to the extraction point where the survivors are being evacuated. And just trying to maneuver their way through all the destruction. And so I think this game really touches in or plugs into that. So at least that's what my first impressions by looking at the trailer and your rules video.
yeah, and that's exactly what we were going for.
Oh, sweet.
You know, actually living near a power plant, you kind of always have like in the back of your mind that what if there wasn't a meltdown? When we live like literally 10 minutes from a giant power plant. So when developing this game, that's how it kind of turned into, well, let's make a radioactive monster, because that kind of leads into
It's always fun.
yeah. Actually, Bob had the initial idea of the game, a tile placement game, building roads.
Yeah, actually kind of came to in a dream, kind of. I had a dream we were playing the game. I guess you play games enough, you start dreaming about them. I guess that kind of become a good thing. So yeah, kind of had an idea to put some tile placings down, and the tile pieces themselves would have roads on them, and you'd be building them and move your car along it, and just needed that extra crazy element. So we're like, Ryan had the idea, well, let's throw a monster in there, to be destroying the roads and give you a reason to be moving that car around super quick. So yeah, it kind of has that Cloverfield escape, from the power plant where everyone would be working, and then you're going to the bunkers in the corner, which is basically like your home base, technically, in the game is what it's called. Basically the premise of it.
All right. Now, how long was this game in development? And
it's actually, the concept, when we first came up with the idea of, building the roads and the monster, the concept stayed the same.
Yeah.
It's more or less the gameplay that it changed slightly through all of our playtesting that we have gone through over the past year. So we're into our second year of development. We took an entire year of just building the game, getting all the components together, so that it's a game that we can play and then we can share. And then the second year was literally an entire year of just traveling to conventions and playing it and getting feedback. And we basically would take, things that we heard that people wanted to see or they liked about games, and we just took their ideas and kind of tweaked them a little bit to what we like.
Uh-huh.
And it really helped hearing what people like, to make the game what it is today.
Cool.
Yeah, can't stress play testing enough. To any designer, developer out there, play test. Feedback is I don't know, invaluable. It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Listening to what everyone says, and like I said, people have great ideas. We wrote everything down. We would come home and spend night after night after night just discussing all the notes, and then we're like, well, this was a good idea. What if we tweak this person's idea, and basically a year worth of tweaks.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much in its final state right now.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, the Kickstarter goes live on January 15th. Now, how long is the Kickstarter going to be on for?
For 26 days. I believe it. I mean, it's starting on January 15th, and I believe it was February 11th is our last day.
Okay. So why don't you go through, take us through the game and how many players is it, and what the time and the age and stuff like that, and just kind of go through a quick run through of how the game plays.
So that's one thing that got adjusted recently through a couple of our conventions, where the gameplay, like the original gameplay, was probably 45 minutes to 60 minutes because we played on a 6-fold board. And there was talks of maybe to increase the speed of the game, maybe we could go to a 4-fold board and make a slightly smaller board. So again, we play tested that and demoed it, and it worked out that it was playing roughly 20 to 30 minutes on that 4-fold board, and we enjoyed that a lot more. So that's actually what's coming to Kickstarter. We're going to do the 4-fold board. So it's going to be for ages 8+. It's going to play, roughly 30 minutes. It's for 2 to 4 people to play through. And that's basically the final addition that we're going to bring.
Yeah, so gameplay. So, the goal of the game is to go from ground zero, which is in the middle of the board. Everyone starts at ground zero, and on your turn, you roll 2 specialty die, and there's 3 results. You can either roll a car, a road, or a monster. So everyone has 6 road tiles in their hand to begin with. And if you roll a road, you can place a road tile. If you roll a car, you would roll another die, a 6-sided die, and that says how many spaces you can move on the road that you built. Or if you roll a monster, there's a monster card deck. You would draw 1 card and it has a coordinate on it. So it might say monster moves to C4. So the actual board itself is coordinates. It's, A through, let's say, G, and then 1 through 7, and then you just follow the coordinates, and that's where the monster goes. So if you're unfortunate enough that your car is on a tile on that spot, the monster lands on it. If he lands on your car, he'll send your car back to ground zero, to the middle of the game. And if it's the last road that was built and the monster lands on that, the last tile, he'll destroy that tile and it gets discarded from the board.
Yeah, so basically you just be the first person to get your car back to your home base, and that's the winner of the game.
All right.
There's some specialty tiles in there too that kind of adds a little bit of element to it. So depending on, we always say, like, depending on the age range that you're playing with, if you're playing with like older adults, it comes really cutthroat. There's some swap tiles in there which allow you to actually exchange roads with others. So if a car is actually on that road, it moves to the other side of the board. So you could be like 1 space away from winning, and your car gets transferred to the other side of the board. So, it's caused some, some heated games, over the past few years. But yeah, it works. But there's some other specialty tiles in there that add, a little bit of an element, some strategy to the game too. It's not just, just placing road tiles and moving a car. There is some strategy to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a fine line of when you focus on yourself building a road, or if someone's getting too close to the home base, everyone attacks them. They become the target. So that's when, like Bob said, there's a swap tile where if you roll a road on the specialty die, you can use your swap tile and swap someone across the board. The car goes along with it. There's a radioactive roadway tile, and you can play that on the end of someone's road. So I roll a road, I have a radioactive roadway tile in my hand. I can play it on, let's say, Bob's road, and that destroys the last road tile that he had built.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So there's that. We also have a reroll tile, and we actually, it was a recent change. So originally, it's still the rule. A reroll tile, obviously you can play that tile on your turn. If you don't like the results of your specialty die, let's say you're trying to get a road, and you roll a car and a monster. You're like, oh, I want a road. So you can lay down your reroll tile, you take both dice, reroll it again. Hopefully you get a road. And the new aspect we just added to it, where you can actually play that on somebody. So let's say Bob needed 1 more road to get into his home base. and he roll rode, and he's jumping up down, he's excited. I can be like, well, I got this reroll tile, and I am forcing you to reroll the dice again. So just little tweaks to get one more aspect of that the Cuthbert.
Yeah. So not only do you have the potential of having to deal with the monster, but you're having to deal with your other
fellow gamers. Yeah.
Yep. And it's good about the reroll thing, because anytime you're talking about a game that has dice in it, it's like, okay, well, there's the whole thing of luck coming in. So all right, well,
exactly.
Yeah.
Is there something in there that we could kind of manipulate those dice a little bit? Good.
Exactly. And they're the games that we love most. That's why we decided to make a game. We love playing games, and we have the same taste in games. So we're like, it'd be so awesome to make a game and basically cater to what we really love. And we were lucky enough through playtesting to realize that a lot of other people love the same kind of game that we do. So basically, it's a combination of strategy and chance. Yeah.
Okay.
So we found out that makes like the perfect combination for a game in the kind of games that we like. And like I said, I think a lot of people like the same. Bob said earlier, it can be stripped down that it literally can just be, you can just build your road. If younger kids are playing, you can build your road. There's a monster move around, awesome. But there is a lot of like strategy that's within the game. When to use your reroll on somebody, when to swap somebody. The swap card, you can swap somebody else, but you can also swap yourself. If someone swapped you across the board and you roll a road, you can actually swap yourself back to your home base even closer.
And there's one other card we didn't talk about. There's actually a Monster Buster card, and everyone starts with one of these cards too. So basically, if your car or your road is going to be smashed by the monster and you don't want that to, you could play the Monster Buster card at any time to stop that from happening. So if someone were going to put that on there or just happen to land on it from the draw of the monster card, now that's something you may want to hang on till later in the game. Maybe someone's going to break your road up right before you build your home base, and you'll play your Monster Buster, and that will stop it. So that's another thing where you choose, when to play it and kind of the strategy part of it,
So what about card management and hand management? How many cards do you start out with, and do you draw how do you draw new cards?
Yes, so everyone starts with the 5 road tiles and a Monster Buster card. So you always have 6 in your hand at any time. And they're like 2x2. They're like chipboard tiles. And you'll start with them. As you play the game, as you build a road, there's 2 draw piles on the other side of the board. You draw another road tile up to replenish your hand. So you're always going to have 6 at any given time.
All right. Can you tell us about how did Onedaywestgames come to be?
Yeah, I mean, I guess starting from the very beginning. Well, first of all, Bob and I, our professions, we're landscapers. We work in a family business. Our dad started a landscaping business 40 years ago, and Bob and I joined him full time about 10 years ago. So that's Bob and I do for a living. So
spend a lot of time together. So we, love gaming. So, naturally during the course of the day, we're always talking games. What game we're going to play, next time, and blah blah blah. And we come up with this idea, and we go, well, why can't we make the game ourselves? And
we're used to designing for a living. We design landscapes, every day. So there's design and creativity's in our blood. The name Onedaywestgames actually came from we're both musicians. We play in a band, and our band is actually called One Day West.
Ah, okay.
But we trademarked the name One Day West, so we're like, well, we own the name One Day West. We're gonna have no problems at all trademarking the name Onedaywestgames, since we know who owns One Day West.
There we go.
So if you watched our commercial or you watched any of our trailers, a lot of the music in it is actually like our band music playing in the background. Okay. So we sampled that in the How to Play video, and then in our commercial, we utilize our music.
Cool.
So it kind of helps not having to pay rights to anybody else,
Definitely,
Just
yeah.
plug for us too. So yeah,
that's why we were actually we were listening to your intro music to your podcast, and we're like, oh, listen, we're sitting there.
This is rocking.
Before we emailed you, we're like rocking out over here. Bob's like, let me hop on my drums so I can drum along with this music before we get a hold of Thomas.
You're in the band. You own the music. Use it. So what the heck? You want to plug your band? Do you have like any CDs or Bandcamp stuff out there?
Yeah. We have one album out now. It's called Awake at Night. It's actually on YouTube. We don't have it on iTunes or everything, but you can go to our YouTube page is One Day West, and the album is on there. And we have a couple cover music videos we made. They're on there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, two of the songs, like Bob said earlier, are the one song, Red Ledge, is played behind our Kickstarter video. And
Let Go.
And it's called Let Go is the other one.
Very good. So yeah, if you like music and you like games, and of course, I'll put all the links to the things we're discussing here in the show notes. This episode is episode 34. Kickstarter starts Monday the 15th and goes for about a month or so. If the Kickstarter is successful, what kind of time frame are you looking at is getting it released to the people?
Yeah, we're looking. We have everything kind of lined up. We have fulfillment lined up, and we have everything lined up with our manufacturer as well. So that's going to help expedite the process. Say like 95% of our artwork is already done and ready to roll. So with that, we're right around the September mark with looking for shipping out to our backers. So we're trying to get everything lined up ahead of time, so we're not scrambling during the campaign to source parts and components and that kind of thing. So it's all ready to rock and roll. So we have some stretch goals planned. So that would probably be the only artwork. If we hit any of those stretch goals, we have like a 3D monster mold at some part. We have some finishes to the components, linen finish upgrades. We have some like custom molded cars and so some of those upgrades, they would be the only like little thing that we'd have to tweak with our artists. But besides that, everything's ready to go. So we're shooting around September.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to find out more about you, where could they go?
Yeah, we're very active on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can find us at Onedaywestgames. And
then also we have a website too. Just www.onedaywestgames.com. And on there's all the great information. There's our how to play video. There's our commercial. There's a sign up if you want more information about anything to stay up to date. We have a sign up as well on there. So.
All right, cool. All right, well, Robert, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck on the Kickstarter. Looks like a really cool game. Cloverfield in board game form.
Well, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Now, if you have any ideas or suggestions of what you want to hear about, or maybe a topic of discussion about board games, you can reach out to us on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and all the links to those and other social media outlets can be found on our webpage. That's www.themegameeple.com. Or if you're a game designer or creator, or you have a Kickstarter you want to be a guest on the Mega Meeple to talk about, you can email us directly at megameeple@outlook.com. And if you'd like to support us, you can go to our Pod Pledge site and donate $1 or so. That will really help us out on hosting costs and such. And you'll get rewards and exclusive content and anything from a shout out for you in an episode to actually being a guest on an episode or talk about anything you want within reason. After all, so. But thank you so much for listening, and until next time, this is Tom saying, see you at the game table.